Online Baccarat review. Baccarat is one of the oldest games of chance that has pleased players for decades. After being featured as the table game in the famous James Bond movie, Baccarat rose to prominence and has become one of the most sought-after games in land-based and online casinos. Here, we explore the basics you should know about playing online Baccarat. This game might have been a little confusing in the movie since the dealer spoke French, but it is a simple game requiring less skill and more luck. Let's get right to it. The aim of playing Baccarat is to bet on which hand you think will have a card value closest to 9. You can wager on the player to win, the banker to win, or both hands ending up in a tie. The player or the banker side doesn't signify that you are the player while the dealer is the banker. They're only terms used to differentiate both hands. Now, before explaining how the game plays out, you should note the value of the cards. The cards 2 through 9 have their same face value, meaning that a hand has 5 points when dealt a 2 and a 3 and 7 points when dealt a 3 and a 4. 10, Jack, Queen, and King have a 0 value, while aces stand for 1. Once you have decided which side you want to bet on, 2 cards are dealt to both hands, beginning with the player. Now, if the player has a total of 8 or 9, it is called a natural, meaning that no more cards are drawn and bets placed on the player to win. The player bet pays out 1-to-1. So, if you bet $10 on the player, you get an additional $10 if the bet wins. The banker bet pays out 1-to-1 when it wins, but the casino takes a 5% commission from this hand. So in actuality, winning banker bets pay 95%. That means you get $9.50 for a $10 bet if the banker wins. We already mentioned that you could also bet on a tie, which means betting that the player and the banker will have the same hand. Tie bets have a slight chance of winning, but they pay out 8-to-1, meaning you get an additional $80 for a $10 tie bet if the game does end in a tie. For the next betting round, choose which side you want to wager on, and watch as the dealer hands out cards to the player and the banker. The player side has a 9 and an 8, giving a total of 17. Remember that the game's objective is to get as close to 9 as possible. If the card value is above 9, we drop the first digit of both numbers. So the player's 17 becomes a 7. On the other hand, the banker gets an ace and a 6, totaling up to 7. In this case, the betting round ends in a tie, and players who bet on the tie get paid. Baccarat is that simple. Unlike some table games like blackjack, where you need to do a bit of thinking, Baccarat only requires you to bet and watch the dealer do the major work. However, a few additional rules determine if the player or the banker gets a third card. A third card is dealt if the player's hand has 0 through 9, except in cases where the banker has a natural. The banker's side is a little more complicated, and drawing the third card solely depends on the player's hand. The banker draws at 0 through 5 if the player stands at a 6 through 9. For instance, if the player has a hand total of 7 and the banker has a total of 5, the player stands, meaning that no more cards are dealt to that hand, but the banker takes a third card. If this third card turns out to be an 8, the banker has 13. However, we drop the first digit, so the hand becomes 3. The player wins 7 over 3. There you have it, the basics of playing online Baccarat. Now that you know the basics, nothing stops you from trying your hand at some Baccarat variants in your preferred online casino.